because one of the things that we always got to take in consideration when we talk about any issue in Syracuse is the poverty rate.
Right.
We rank number one in concentrated poverty amongst minorities.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Number one in the nation.
Yeah.
So when you think of that, you're almost looking at pockets of third world living right here in the city of Syracuse.
I'm Dr. Scott Noren, an oral surgeon in upstate New York. I'm a U.S. Senate candidate as a write-in, and this is Quante Wright. Quante has run for Syracuse City Council before, about a year ago, and is a community activist, lifelong resident of Syracuse, very involved with the community. And we're talking how to reduce violence amongst some adults, but also teens.
So thanks for having me.
Nice to meet you. Tell me a little bit more about your background.
Born and raised in Syracuse, New York. Had a very rough childhood, I would say. It was rough growing up in poverty, pretty much. You know, single parent home. Just me, my little sister, who's 2 years younger than me, my mother, who raised us. Had an older sister, but she ended up out of the house by the time she was 16 or whatever. So it was mainly just me and my sister, my mother. Grew up on the south side.
Figures?
No, my father, who was married to another woman when we were created, so you can kind of put together that story. Yeah, so he was around, but he wasn't around.
Right.
You know, only memories of him growing up was he'll come and pick us up, buy school sneakers at the beginning of the school year. And after that, I might not see him till next school year. I lost an uncle, Boot, that got killed on the east side. He was 19 at the time before I was born. He got killed, but the rest of my aunts and uncles was very active. It was our family is like a community. Like, you know, we kind of, my aunt made up for a lot of things that my mother couldn't do for us. And my uncles, you know, played some sort of role, whether taking us to sports, doing something like that, you know. So
the uncle who died, was that because of violence? Or?
Yeah, he got killed. He got shot. It affected my mother because my mother was an alcoholic.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know her losing her younger brother, he was the youngest, had some play in her life, which trickles down to our lives.
Right.
Because, you know, one thing about violence, it doesn't just affect the victim or the killer.
Sure.
It affects whole circumstances and family.
It's a whole circle.
Yeah, it's a whole circle of things that you might not realize.
Do you feel like if you were in middle school at the time, it's hard to transpose what could have been, I suppose, but do you think that if you had a team of 7 or 8 or 10 teammates that you were lifting weights with and setting goals and had a coach that really cared about how you were doing at school and everything else, do you think personally that would have had some kind of an impact on you?
When I got to middle school, you know, that was around the time that I was introduced to drug dealing.
Okay.
Yeah, I started selling drugs in the 8th grade. And it was sort of by default.
Right.
I found drugs. You know, I was probably 13 at the time. I found a bag of crack cocaine.
Oh, wow.
I still remember to this day, it was 15 dime bags. They was all worth $10 a piece. And that started years of a criminal lifestyle as a drug dealer, which translated to gang violence. So if I had a strong support team that picked up on signs like whatever the sign, because at that time what happened was I ended up getting kicked out of Clary. I went to Clary Middle School, which was a good middle school, and I got into a fight. It was sort of racial motivated. It was dealing with a white guy, and somehow I had a bat. I don't know where I get a bat from. Hit him with a bat, you know. So school kicked me out and sent me to an alternative school, where I was now surrounded by other young drug dealers and gang members, and you know. So instead of school kicking me out, like seeing what's going on in this kid's life, because I wasn't a real problematic kid. I never failed a grade. Super smart. You know, so the behavior display could have been checked.
Could have been a turning point.
Yeah, it could have been a turning point. Instead of saying, we're going to expel him, kick him out of school, which wasn't the best ideal, because now you put me in an alternative school where nobody does work, nobody gives, teachers don't care. You know what I'm saying? You're barely learning anything. You know, so that right there really, super sped up the whole me getting involved into gangs and moving further in my drug career as a drug dealer.
Right.
One morning before school, I find myself in an altercation with a guy where I put out a pistol. He called the police. Big guy tried to attack me, and I had a gun on me. He didn't know. And I ended up in Hillbrook that morning. So that was a life-changing moment because now I'm first time incarcerated at 15.
Right.
So with that being said, I started to read the Bible, but it still wasn't enough to take me away from drug dealing. Once I got out, got shipped to Albany, did some time in Albany, came back home. Now I just turned up. I knew new methods of selling drugs, and now I became a bigger drug dealer.
Okay.
And then it was the point of in and out of incarceration, Janesville, doing 8-month bids. 2006, that's when the feds kicked in the door. 6 o'clock in the morning, August 22nd, 2006. I will never forget that day.
Wow.
That's when I said, Lord, I'm all yours now. You got my full abiding attention. I know I'm going to do a lot of time, and I want to do this walking with you.
Right. I think if there's a lack of something at home like that, I think one factor could be getting kids into an activity. There are other activities. There's music. There's all kinds of things. But in this particular thing, it's getting kids involved in a particular sport, which is Olympic weightlifting, which in St. Joe, Missouri, was very, very effective, and it's been going on for definitely over 20 years.
Okay.
And that's the Wesley weightlifting team. And the unique thing is, these kids get motivated to stay in school, have better grades. They can't just avoid school, do things, getting into trouble. They have to sort of earn to keep that place on the team. I think what it does is it gives, like Olympic lifting, gives a lot of confidence to people that truly would have never had that had they never pursued it. Mm-hmm. It's just something that if we try to experiment with that in Syracuse at the middle school and high school level, I think we can probably reach. Even we don't reach them all, obviously. But if we reach some of the kids. Yeah. And I think it actually can help some of the adults, too, because if you get some of the at-risk adults involved in the coaching part of it, that takes a lot of discipline, too.
It's like, would that be appealing to the youth in urban communities? That'd be my question, right?
It is. Like in St. Joe, it's, we saw a mix. I mean, there's a mix of Caucasian people of color on the team. I know when I was a powerlifter, when I was at the University of Illinois, our team was from everywhere, like all over the world. But we were very cohesive. We definitely looked out for each other if somebody was having trouble with something. And I think that's part of the nice thing about sports in general and music and art and all kinds of things like that. People, it's when people don't have a connection, that's when they really get into trouble.
I agree.
Also, hopefully we can kind of work a little bit together and try to, build on things that already exist, but maybe add something that could really be a turning point for some of these kids too.
Yeah, I'm all for it because our school, I don't know if you did research, but our school district it needs some help. It needs something to get these kids through. Like some of our schools, even our elementary schools are like,
we need to reach the parents too, though. We need to reach parents that are apathetic, that are, just like, leave me alone, I don't want to be bothered, I got my own problems.
It starts at home. And a lack of connection and communication between parents and kids and parents within the school. Because you'll be surprised, most parents don't even check on their kids in school, know anything what happens in school, help them with schoolwork and things of that nature. It's a very... Because one of the things that we always got to take into consideration when we talk about any issue in Syracuse is the poverty rate.
Right.
You're dealing with poor parents.
Right.
That are struggling to keep the daily basic needs of their children met, as far as food, shelter, clothing. Yeah. So it's like you're dealing with a population, especially in the urban community. We rank number one in concentrated poverty amongst minorities.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Number one in the nation.
Yeah.
So when you think of that, you're almost looking at pockets of third world living right here in the city of Syracuse, where 50% of our children go to school hungry.
Right.
Like, are not fed. Can you think about that? So you go through any school right now, grade school level, half of the school is starving.
It's hard to concentrate in school.
It's hard when you're hungry. And there's no way you can even focus and be successful.
The poverty aspect has a huge, when you start to like make a dent in that, you can start to at least make a dent in people's lives that they say, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be food hungry. I'm not going to be worrying about, stressed out, worrying about where my next meal is coming from,
Yeah.
and things like that. How I'm going to pay my rent, those things, eat away, and some people are more susceptible to looking for other things, to ease the pain of that.
Yeah.
You know.
And that, like, to that point, is one of the reasons that our current county executive, Joni Mahoney, hired me was we got a philosophy on jobs. Economic development is jobs.
Right.
We employ their parents who then make money, then could come home and feed their kids right, so the kids can go to school
Right.
and learn.
Right.
It's like jobs. Even young people that's in middle school. I remember the churches used to hire us to go sell candy, and I was able to make money.
Right.
So if you could employ them, youth. We did a great youth summer program where we hired over 1,000 kids in the area, the Syracuse area. Got them summer jobs in the summer. They worked 6 weeks, made minimum wage.
Exactly.
So we got a philosophy is like jobs.